I'm a former Trump voter.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020.
In 2020, I voted for Trump again.
I will never support Donald Trump.
I will not vote for him in 2024.
She's got so much baggage.
So that's a rough ad being run by the Republican Voters Against Trump campaign. They've gotten together all of these people who at one point were Trump supporters, maybe big fans of the MAGA movement, maybe owned a red hat themselves, and they're not interested in Donald Trump anymore. And ads like that, and that's not the only one, are gonna be everywhere. TV, streaming, radio, billboards, digital media. They're spending $50 million, which is a lot of reach. And look, every politician loses some supporters. That's not surprising. But what's important is the reason for it. And so let's get into a little bit of that with our further clips, starting with this.
Trump is the biggest threat to our democracy.
He kept denying.
He lost the election.
Donald Trump was responsible for the violence of January 6th.
He could have prevented it.
Trump talking about retribution.
Retribution and going after people is disrespect of our military.
The military people that he's disgraced.
91.
Criminal felonies.
4 different indictments.
He mishandled classified documents.
Taking documents.
Now his desire to do away with NATO.
Donald Trump talks about abandoning Ukraine.
He said he'll be a dictator on day one.
If he's going to be a dictator on day one, he's going to be a dictator, period.
That kind of stuff scares me.
Absolutely scares me.
A second Trump term would be worse than the first.
A second term for Trump
would be far more extreme.
It is dangerous, outright dangerous.
I cannot support Donald Trump again.
I'd never vote for him again.
He'll never get my vote, ever, ever.
That's a lot of videos. What I like about that, and obviously it's not intended to appeal to me as like a progressive who's gonna vote for a Democrat or whatever. But what I like about that in terms of persuasion is, it's not like they have all these people who used to be Trump supporters that now are voting against him because of like lib stuff or whatever. They're turning against him for reasons that make sense for a Republican to have a problem with him. And there's all these things that Donald Trump has done that should have been deal breakers to old school conservative Republicans that weren't, at least for most of them. But for some of the voters, thankfully, there is some consistency. He has often shown utter disrespect for members of the military. He doesn't seem to care about them or their sacrifice. That's the sort of thing that theoretically should have bothered a lot of Republicans, especially older Republicans. Turning against democracy, turning against our allies, being willing to sacrifice Ukraine to Russia. I'm not saying that that's weird to me as like a Democrat. That should be really weird to longtime Republican voters, and thankfully for some of them, it is. And I want to show you one more video. This is Dennis, a serviceman, talking about why he doesn't support Donald Trump. This is trouble for Donald Trump because we already know coming out of his primary with Nikki Haley, there is a significant percentage of the Republican base, not just general voters, but the Republican base that isn't buying Donald Trump at this point. And they know well who he is at this point, and they don't like it. 30 to 40% of the vote going to Nikki Haley, a significant percentage going to Nikki Haley even after she'd already dropped out of the race. And I don't know how many of them are in that ad, but that ad, those people, they represent something real. And Donald Trump is going to need those people if he wants to win in November. He needs to be willing to convince them that he's not who he has worked so hard to lead them to believe that he is. And here is the issue. He doesn't seem to care about getting those people back. He said in a recent, if we go to our last graphic, he said in a recent rally appearance that he doesn't want the support of Republicans who didn't vote for him in the primaries. We won't take them back. But dude, you need to take them back. These races are gonna be super tight. You can't afford to lose 10 to 30% of your base. You desperately need those people. The issue for Trump is that he hasn't really given us any reason to believe that he's capable of reassuring them, that he's not going to destroy democracy, that he's not going to abandon our allies, that he's not going to continue to like take groups like the police, who his supporters tried to beat to death with their bare hands, or our veterans, that he's not going to continue to disrespect them. That at this point is just who he is, and it could be really trouble for him in November. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.